Hello, in this video we will see how the consents are created for different records. It can be a contact record, lead record or anything. For that we need to go, first of all we see contact record, how the consent is provided for contact record. We are at the contact record with the name Mr. Arthur Song. For Mr. Arthur Song, we need to create the consents. Here you can see the options which are available. This cells is nothing but purpose for which the consent is taken. The cells can be processed via phone, email, SMS, regular mail or social, or these channels can be depending upon the company policy. You can create, you can add new channels or you can eliminate the channel which you are not supposed to use. Now, how the consent is created? For the purpose cells, via phone, if the consent is taken by Mr. Arthur Song, then we need to click on missing consent. We can see the form is generated for the consent. In that we need to select the consent format. How the consent is communicated by Mr. Arthur Song is nothing but the consent format. Now in this case I will say that I have taken in-person consent for Mr. Arthur Song. On what basis the consent is taken is nothing but the lawful basis. We'll say that the consent has taken on the basis of contract. So we'll select contract over here. Now consent status can be of three types. First one is active, second one is declined, third one is expired. Active means if the person has given the consent for a particular purpose via a particular channel, it will be called as active for the duration of start date to end date. So once that end date is achieved, we can say that the consent can be expired. So after the end date, that consent record which is created, which was active, will be expired. Explicitly, the second option can be the consent is refused. In that case, that consent will be having the status decline. For now, we will select the consent status as active. We will select start date, that is today's start date, that is Jan 2019, 11 Jan, and we will consider the end date as suppose 31st Jan, and we'll click on create new. Once this button is clicked, a consent record will be created. So you can see for sales purpose via phone, a consent is active. Similarly, we can create other consents also for purposes sales via email, via SMS or regular mail and so on. Secondly, there are few consents which will be system-wide consents. Like a purpose for system-wide consents will be profiling allowed for each and every channel, or it will be independent of channel. These consents will be termed as profiling allowed. The similar procedure to create this consents, you need to click on this missing. You need to select on which in which format you have received the consent. Let us say we have received via paper. The lawful basis, again we will select as a contract. The status, now in this case we will say that profiling allowed is declined. So we'll select decline, and the mandatory or condition for decline status is your start date must be equal to your end date. So we'll select 11 January 2019 as our end date. We'll click on create new. We'll see that profiling allowed is declined. If I'll refresh this page, I can see the alert message which will be displayed on this contact page in a red ribbon format. That indicates that for the particular contact Arthur Sung, your consent has been declined. That is, profiling allowed has been declined for Arthur Sung. This is how a consent is generated for contact record. Similarly, we can see for lead also. Here is one more option which is for mass add. In the case when I want to create a consent record for sales via phone, sales via email, sales via SMS, it means I have to create 3 different consents at a time. So I can click on mass add option. In that, I will be selecting the consent format, which is in person, let us say, lawful basis as contract. My consent status will be active. Start date I have selected today's start date, and end date can be anything, that is, let us say 28 Jan in this case. So I will be selecting sales via phone. sells via email, and sells via SMS. And profiling allowed is also active. I will click on mass add button. I can see that the consents are generated. These are mass consents which are added for sells via phone, sells via email, and sells via SMS, along with system-wide consent which is profiling allowed. I can change this. I can change if at a point Miss Bertha Boxer communicates to me and says that you need to change the consent status for sells via phone from active to decline. What I have to do, I have to click here, double click on this. Now there are certain fields which can be editable. I will check this active to decline, and for decline the mandation is you need to select your end date as today. That means on today, that is 11 Jan 2019, the consent which was active earlier was declined, and I will click on update the record. So I can see this sells via phone consent is now declined. This is how a consent management is processed in cloud compliance. Thank you.